To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
Right, my dear children. So, in the earlier chapters, we discussed several things regarding to the solar system, several information regarding our planets and the planetary system, about the moons and so on. Then after that, we studied about the major incidents that's going to occur within the planet, our solar system, right? So we studied about the lunar eclipses, we studied about the solar eclipses mainly. Now, this chapter forwards, my dear children, will be observing what are the other things that contained within our universe and how to explore these things. The way of exploring our universe. What are the modern technological developments? And what are the modern technological instruments that we use to explore the universe, right? So from this chapter onwards, we'll be discussing mainly to explore about our universe and to get some idea about the other celestial objects contained within the universe. So my dear children, now it's time to explore the universe. So air cover around the earth is called the atmosphere. The atmosphere extends up to about 500 kilometers from the surface of the earth. So you know that during the previous grade 7, we studied several things regarding the atmosphere, the layers of the atmosphere and the height from the ground level or from the sea level to each of these layers. And we studied that if you take the atmosphere is going to spread around or spread about 500 of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers from the surface of the earth, right? From the surface of the earth up to hundreds of kilometers, the atmosphere is going to spread. Okay, so it is given nearly for about 500 kilometers. Our air is going to cover up the surface of the surface of the earth, from the surface of the earth to the top for about 500 kilometers. For about 500 kilometers. That's the usual. I mean, like there are gases even after 500 kilometers, but however, the gas layer is going to get somewhat thin when you go beyond 500 kilometers. Okay, so our atmosphere is like up to 500 of kilometers, 500 of kilometers from the surface of the earth, right? But however, there is a certain thing here, my dear children, it's that but it become very thin after about 100 kilometers. So I told you that it's becoming thin when you go further up from the surface of the earth. Okay, when the altitude is going to increase gradually, the air is also going to be very thin. The layer or the gas particles or the air particles contained within the atmosphere is going to reduce. So when you go beyond like 100 kilometers, this thing is going to dramatically reduce. I mean, the gas particles or the air particles contained within the atmosphere after 100 kilometers is very less amount of gas particles could be observed. So the area that start about 100 kilometers far from the earth is termed as the space. Now my dear children, after 100 kilometers, I told you that after 100 kilometers, even though the atmosphere is very more far than that, it's assumed that after 100 kilometers, it's assumed that we refer the other area as the space. We refer the other area as the space. So 100 kilometer is the margin. After that, because of the air is getting very thin, right? It's getting very thin. Layer of the air is getting very thin after 100 kilometers. So therefore, after 100 kilometers, the area is referred as the thinner area is referred as the what? It's referred as the space after 100 kilometers. So when the altitude is greater than 100 kilometers, my dear children, we refer that area as the space. We refer that area as the space. Okay? Right. Since ancient times, man has been exploring the space. However, the limits of space, what it contains, and how much does it contain, such things are questions. So, such things are the questions man has not been able to find answers so far. So, since ancient times, my dear children, man has been exploring the space. We know that, right? Even when you take the earlier time periods, even the Egyptians, Chinese people, Indian people, right? Those people were observing the space and the night sky. And you know that even the zodiac signs we receive are from the ancient people, very ancient people, right? So, from that age, my dear children, the people are used to watch and explore these new things which contained within the space. So, even though the human beings are observing these things since that kind of an era, however, my dear children, man haven't been able to answer these particular questions. What are those? The limit of the space. What is the limit of the space? Are there any limit in the space? Are there any limit in the universe? Where is the final margin of the universe? Until now, we don't know what is that. Until now, scientists, they don't know to answer that thing. We assume that the universe is infinite. There is no end. There is no end. However, it's not been proved yet. We don't know actually whether it is infinite or not. We don't know. Okay? So that's why we refer that thing as an infinite thing. The limit of the universe, we assume that thing as an infinite thing. Because we don't know the limit for sure. How much is the limit? Okay. Then, my dear children, what it contains and how much does it contain? So, what are the things contained within our universe? Actually, there are some certain things that we do know. We know about stars. We know about certain planets. We know about meteoroids, asteroids. We know about other different celestial objects, like the neutron stars, black holes, and so on. But however, is there any other things? Is there any other thing? Is there any other thing which we can't observe? Right? Is there any other forms of energy that we can't observe very clearly? Is there any other forms of matter that we can't observe? Like that way, there are certain things, my dear children. Actually, if you take our universe is like made up with several, you know that each and every object is made up with materials, no? Matter. So we refer these things as matter. So matter is made up with mainly particles. Right? Matter is made up with particles. So these particles are very smaller, but however, when they collect to form a certain material, we can observe those things from our naked eye. But however, they are within our universe, my dear children, there are another type of materials. In these materials, the particles cannot be observed from the naked eye. right? Particles cannot be observed from the naked eye, even though they have been arranged to contain, or even though they have very large count of number of particles within the material. However, these things are not being able to observe from our naked eye. So these things are referred as dark matter. There are dark matter within our universe, not around us, but however within the space there are. It's been proved that there are dark matter, means that you can't observe it very clearly. However, those things are there. So like in the same way, there are like dark energies as well. The energy types that we can't observe, energy types that we won't be able to measure. So like that way, there are different kinds of things that contained within the universe. However, we don't know what are the things which are contained within them, and we don't know what, like up to which kind of a space are they going to be spread, are those things going to spread, right? Up to what kind of a limit those things going to spread, we don't know. Okay, and we even don't know from what are they made up with. We don't know. That's why we refer those things as darker things, because we don't know, we can't observe. Even the scientists can't observe these things. Their nature, they don't know. That's why those things are mentioned as dark matter and dark energy. They don't know what are the things contained within them. Okay, so those things can be clearly been proved, my dear children. The presence of those things been proved, actually not being seen, but however the presence of those things been proved. Okay, so these things still are questions for the scientists and as well as for the people in earth. So such things are the questions that man has not been able to find answers. So far, right, the scientists and also brightest people in our planet Earth, right, even those people couldn't understand, or they won't be able to give answers for these types of questions. Actually, what we do know about the universe is pretty much less. It's like 0.001% if you take the whole universe, what we do know. However, the things that we don't know is imaginable. We cannot imagine how much the things that we don't know, my dear children. The things that we know is very, it's very bit, right? We know just a bit of it. We don't know. The things that we don't know are the ones which are much larger. Okay, so when the time is going to pass by within the future, sometimes there is a possibility that these things would be answered. But however, my dear children, right, still there will be some certain question marks which are going to be remain even though the time is going to pass by. We won't be able to learn all the things contained within our universe, right? Because there are such kind of vast things within our universe. So our universe is a wonderful and a mysterious place. Right then, so the objective of science is to find out answers to such questions. So the learning objective of these things, why do we need to learn about science? What's the purpose of studying these things? The main purpose is, my dear children, is to have a certain, to have a certain interest within the things that we are going to learn in here, to develop the understanding about the celestial object and From that thing, my dear children, main aim is to develop a certain interesting thing in your mind and developing you guys into scientists, so that you in the future you might find out the answers that we don't know. Okay, that's the whole point of learning these things. So I think when you are learning about these things, you might get curious about certain things and you will learn about those things even more and more. And after doing your examinations, you may follow up these things even in your higher grades and also in your scholarships. Then after that, my dear children, you may become a scientist and you go for the answering, you go to answer these things and you give out new findings to the world. So by that way you can, you people, you are the ones who are going to hold our future, and my dear children, you will be able to find out the answers that we will not be able to find. That's the whole aim of learning science. From generation to generation, this thing has been passed right now. So in the earlier generation, the people who found certain things was given to this generation or to this era. Then after that, the scientists who have developed certain things and concept about the findings of the previous one was given to the next generation, and the time has been passed on since that. Now up to here in the 20th century, my dear children, right, there are certain things that we do know about the universe. So those are the ones that we are learning right now. So it's really important to explore the other remaining things and explore about the other things related to the universe and to find out answers. So the scientist in our next generation, that means you guys, will be able to answer these questions if you study and work really hard, right? So it is given that initially man could reach the higher levels of the atmosphere using balloons. Balloons filled with gases like hydrogen or helium, which are lighter than air, can rise up into the sky. Balloons filled with hot air also rise up. Both of these can take man higher levels in the sky. Now in the earlier times, my dear children, right, in the earlier times, before the invention of spaceships, man tried to investigate the space by using balloons, air-filled balloons. So these balloons, normally they use hydrogen or helium gas. As these gases are very lighter than normal air, they are going to rise up. Okay, they are going to rise up. So large balloons filled up with hydrogen or helium being used to investigate about the space during the earlier times. And also hot air currents or hot air balloons are also being used by the earlier people in order to investigate the space. However, the thing is, my dear children, people or human have a certain limit that they could travel by using these kinds of instruments. I mean, like by using a balloon, people are able to travel only to a certain extent, only to a certain height. I mean, they can't go beyond like 500 kilometers in the space, right? There is a certain limit which the balloon is going to travel. After that, it's not going to travel. It's going to remain within our atmosphere after a certain height. Okay, so it's going to be a huge disadvantage. So people in the earlier time period, then people thought to travel even more, to go even more in the space. So that's how the invention of spaceships and the rockets came to our, to our Earth. Okay. So in the earlier cases, even though the balloons are being used, in present era, we use spaceships and rockets to investigate about the outer space. So here, now you are given, now this is a hydrogen or helium balloon, right? These things are also called as weather balloons. So this is the investigating part, a computer or whatever the instrument is being fixed to this point or fixed to this one. Then the balloon is going up. As it is going to travel up, information is going to be collected within the instrument over here. Then this is hot air balloon. Hot air is being pumped into the balloon. Then my dear children, you know that hot air has very less mass or very less density actually, right? Density is very less. So as the density is going to reduce, those particles or those materials would tend to go up. So that's why these gas particles or air particles are going to go up with the balloon. So once again, the people or the instruments over here is going to collect information regarding the space and the contents of the space. Then those information will be collected by the information collecting centers. That's how they gathered information regarding the space in the earlier times, my dear children, right? Okay then. So later man realized that the only way to reach the outer space is by using rockets. Now we are discussing what? The usage of rockets. So I told you that spaceships and rockets were pretty much important to investigate about the outer space. We won't be able to investigate about the outer space if we use these balloons. There's no possible way to travel to the outer space by using a balloon. So my dear children, man knew that, people knew that, scientists knew that they have to invent a certain machine or else a certain instrument in order to observe the universe if they want to travel to the outer space. So that instrument is the one which is referred as the what? The rocket or the spaceships. So given here, Tsiolkovsky, T is silent here, Tsiolkovsky, a Russian scientist. Tsiolkovsky was a Russian scientist, and Goddard, an American scientist, were the pioneers to work on rockets. So there were a lot of people, a lot of scientists that did works to find out a certain spaceship, okay, in order to conquer the outer space. But however, my dear children, Tsiolkovsky, right, and scientist Tsiolkovsky was a Russian scientist, and the scientist Goddard, he was an American scientist. Those two were the first pioneers to work on these rockets and to find out several very important information regarding the rockets. Okay, so as you can see here, Tsiolkovsky, a Russian scientist, and the Goddard, and an American scientist, were the pioneers. So these two are the main guys who invented to work and invented the rockets. Those are the two main guys who worked to invent a rocket. Okay, Tsiolkovsky and Goddard. Tsiolkovsky was a Russian scientist and Goddard was an American scientist. So you are given with an assignment. See, find the facts about the work done by Tsiolkovsky and Goddard on rockets and make a report. So what you have to do, my dear children, you have to find out several information regarding these two scientists and the work which done by these two scientists in order to develop the rocket science. Okay, So find out more details regarding these two scientists and the work that they done in order to find out several things about the rockets. So you find out these things and you tabulate, or you gather the information which you collected. You can refer several magazines. The best thing is to refer the internet, my dear children. If you have the internet, you can directly go through with the internet. You can find out several details. So even you can find out the figures of those things as well, right? So you find out the information, and I hope that you follow up with the assignment and you will do the assignment to find out the things and the information collected by these two people in order to develop the rocket science field. Okay, right then. Then, my dear children, now we are going to study, or now we are going to make a simple water rocket. Okay, a simple water rocket. I think you have already seen these water rockets through different videos. Sometimes there are different television programs which are going in your TVs regarding these rockets. And in these cases also, first of all, I think, my dear children, the first main thing which is being shown is the water rocket. Okay. So here we are mainly focusing on how to making a water rocket. How to make a water rocket, my dear children. So you are given with these materials, right? We'll see what are the materials that you need in making these in making this simple water rocket. Okay. So by making, or by doing this thing, my dear children, we are going to get a certain idea on how a rocket is going to work. A certain simple idea about how a rocket is going to work. So my dear children, here it is given the materials. So you will be needing these materials. First of all, you will be needing a mega bottle. Volume 1.5 liters, right? So if it has 2 liters, then it would be good, even more greater than that thing, right? Even more greater than 1.51, then it is good, right? So however, if you can find out a 1.5 liter one, then that would be enough. Then you'll be needing next this thing. This is a stopper, a rubber stopper. Rubber stopper. Then my dear children, this is the third instrument. This is a bicycle valve, right? Bicycle valve. Bicycle valve means this is the one which you are going to, right? The bicycle valve, this is the one which you are going to, pump air into the bicycle tire, the bicycle valve. Okay. Bicycle valve. I'll mention as bicycle tire valve. Tube valve. Bicycle tube valve. Then an inflator. Inflator means football, volleyball. So you know that if you take a football or else a volleyball, there is a certain instrument like this, a small bit of an instrument like this that should be inserted into the hole of the ball. Then you need to pump air into it in order to inflate the ball, right? So this part is the one that called as the inflator. So that inflator should be inserted into the ball, into the valve of the ball, right? Then this portion, this part should be inserted into that valve, right? Then for this part you connect the pump, then you pump air into the ball. So this part is referred as the inflator. So you'll be needing that inflator as well. Okay. Then the final one, bicycle air pump. Right? Bicycle air pump. And of course, we'll be needing some water as well. We'll be needing some water as well. So we'll be needing a mega bottle of 1.5 liters or more than that. Then a rubber stopper. Then a bicycle tube valve. Then a ball inflator like football or else a volleyball inflator. Then, my dear children, a bicycle air pump, right? Bicycle air pump. So these are the materials that we need mainly. Then finally, we'll be needing some water as well. You know that water is not that much hard to find, right? So these are the main materials that you'll be needing, right? So now let's head on to see what is the method of doing this activity. So let's see the method. So method is given here. It's very simple. Bore a hole in the rubber stopper and fix the bicycle valve to it. Fill the water up to 1/3 of the bottle and fix the rubber stopper with the valve to it. And now what do you have to do? You have to bore a hole, right? Now that hole should not be loose. I mean the valve should tightly go through the hole. Okay, valve should tightly go through with the hole. It should not be loosely fitted. Remember that thing. So bore a hole in the rubber stopper and fix the bicycle valve to it. Fill water up to 1/3 of the bottle and fix the rubber stopper with the valve to it. Now what do you have to do? Now you have to add some water up to like 1/3 of the height of the mega bottle. Then you have to insert that stopper to the bottle, right? That includes the bicycle valve also. You have to insert it. Okay. Then, my dear children, place the bottle with water as shown in the figure. Then pump air into it using the inflator. Then observe the reaction. Now what do you have to do? As you can see here within the figure, you are going to fill some water into it like this. Then you plug in that stopper that has the valve. Then by using that inflator, you insert the inflator into the valve. Then, my dear children, you take the other end and you connect it with the air pump. Then you have to pump air into the right system or into the mega bottle like this, which is given in the figure. So at a certain instance, what will happen? This plug would come out because of the air pressure inside it. And by pressing this water down, the mega bottle would travel up as the water is getting pressed down, right? As the water is getting pressed down at a greater pressure, right? The water is being removed and the bottle, for that reaction force, the bottle would travel up. Just like the swimming process, my dear children. So when you are swimming, what's going to happen? You keep your arm within water like this and you push the water downward. Keep your arm like this, you push the water downward. So when you are pushing water downward, because of the reaction force given by the water, you are going to move forward. So the action force is going to be downward. To that action force, a reaction force is automatically getting created to push you forward. When you row a boat in water, the same thing is going to happen. Right? The same thing is going to happen. You paddle water downward by using that oar. Right? You paddle water downward. You move water downward. However, water is exerting a reaction on the boat forward. That's why your boat is going to move forward. Okay? So my dear children, it's very clear to us. As you can see here, it's very clear to us. Upon providing air particles into the bottle over here, right, at a certain time, the air particles contained within the bottle, right, is going to occupy a certain space. So that space will not be enough as you pump more and more air particles. So in that case, my dear children, this plug would come out and the air particles contained within the mega bottle will push this water downward. So when pushing water downward, a reaction force will be exerted to upward. So that's why this bottle is going to move up at a higher or at a greater speed. So that's how this thing is going to work. That's how this thing is going to work. That's how this rocket thing is going to work, my dear children. So here we are utilizing a reaction force given out by the thrust. Okay, given out by the thrust or the pressurized gas, pressurized particles in here. Right? When you are preparing this water one, here we are pressurizing water downward. How we pressurize water downward? Upon blowing air particles into the mega bottle. Right? So this water will pressurize down and the reaction would result in moving the bottle upward. So this is how the motion of the rocket is going to work, my dear children. Right then. So what you have to do, then you have to place the bottle with water as shown in the figure. Then you have to pump air into it using the inflator. Then you have to observe the reaction. So our observation was quite simple. What is our observation? At a certain instance, right, the bottle will travel up or bottle will move up, pushing water down, okay, or pressing water down. So we can write down our answer for the observation, my dear children. At an instance, bottle will move up, right? At an instance, bottle will move up, pressing water in the bottle down. So at an instance, bottle will move up, pressing water in the bottle down. So this is how it's going to occur. It's very simple. If you take this one as the bottle, right? So this is the movement of the bottle. So this is the water. This is water. Which pressed down. So this is our observation, my dear children. So at an instance, bottle will move up, pressing water in the bottle down. So like this, upward is the movement of the bottle, downward the water which is going to be pressed, right? So this is our observation from the activity. So this is how an actual rocket is also going to work. In an actual rocket, what happens, my dear children? It's going to utilize the thrust given by the burning of fluid. Burning of a fluid. Actually, it's a fuel, hydrogen fuel. So when you burn hydrogen fuel or hydrogen fluid, a thrust is going to act downward. So by utilizing that thrust, because of the reaction force which is getting generated, the rocket is going to move up. Like in the same way which you can see here, right? When the water is pressing downward, the bottle movement of the bottle is showing to the opposite direction or towards up. Okay. So in the same way, in a real rocket, what happens? This is the fuel which is called as the hydrogen fuel, my dear children. So hydrogen fuel is going to collect with oxygen gas, and in a certain center it's going to burn. Then that upon that burning process, a greater thrust is getting created downward. So by that thrust, my dear children, a reaction force, a certain reaction is getting created within the rocket, but towards up, like the movement of the bottle. Okay. So that reaction helps to travel the rocket or to move the rocket upward. So this is how, this is the way, or this is how, my dear children, a process or the working of a certain rocket is going to be fulfilled. This is how a rocket is going to work with, right? Okay. So as you can see here, sometimes, my dear children, now this is a very basic thing, no? That was a very basic experiment. So if you want, you can develop this thing even way more further. I mean, like for the edge, you can remove that top part of the bottle. I mean, actually if you take it should be the bottom part, right? In the rocket it should be the top part, but if you take the bottle, that bottom part of the bottle, you can remove it and you can fix a conical shape head like this. So what is the purpose of fixing a conical shape? Because you know that the shape of the object is pretty much important for the motion of an object. If you take the shape of a bird, if you take the shape of a fish, they have a certain type of a shape which is called as the streamlined body shape. So the streamlined body shape helps to avoid the pressure given out by the air particles or by the water, and that shape allows to move or to locomote for the locomotion of the animal. Okay, that shape is going to help to easily locomote, to provide an easy locomotion method for the animal, for the particular animal. If you take a fish, fish can easily move through the water because it has a streamlined body shape. Birds can easily fly through air because it has a streamlined body shape. So in the same way, if you make the rocket somewhat point like this, like it to a conical shape, then the streamlined body shape is getting developed and the rocket will be able to travel way more up and in a greater speed also, rather than in the previous case. In here also you can observe a child, a student, which is preparing a rocket, right, which is preparing a water rocket, right. So my dear children, it is given, you can obtain more details about water rockets from the Arthur C. Clarke Center at Moratuwa. So there is a center, special center called the Arthur C. Clarke Center. So within this center, if you contact this thing, you can get even more details about the water rockets and how these things are going to work and how to increase the movement, how to increase the distance which is going to cover by the rocket, right? How to increase the speed of the rocket, and also what are the other things that you need to do when you are making a rocket, this water rocket. Okay, you can get even more information about if you contact the center, right, with regards to the water rocket thing, my dear children. So why do they provide these information? Because my dear children, these things are like pretty much important. This is how the technology of rockets are going to develop in our next future, in upcoming future. So my dear children, they provide several information regarding these technologies. Okay, so even see here, national and international competitions on sending water rockets are also being organized. So there are national ones and international ones. National and international competitions are also being held, right, on sending water rockets. So here they are checking the distance which is going to cover by the rocket and the altitude which the rocket is going to travel, and also the height, and those factors will be considered. Then by that way, my dear children, they would find out who is the winner. So if you contact the Arthur C. Clarke Center, then you can get several information regarding the water rockets, and also you can get information on how to making a good water rocket also, right? So these are about the water rockets and how to make up these things, my dear children. So at your home, you try to make a water rocket by utilizing these materials and try to fly this rocket also. Okay, right then. So my dear children, as a support, I have a video clip with me, right? So let's observe how does the action of a water rocket is going to happen. So you observe this video clip very clearly and get a knowledge about the working of the water rocket. Okay, so let's head on to see our video clip then. Right, my dear children, so as you can see over there, so that rocket was a quite unique one. The shape of it is similar to a rocket that we use in space explorations also, right? The appearance is similar. I mean they have modified this thing, and as you can see, it's going to travel way more up, right? So you might thought that because this is a toy one, so those things will not travel that much far and to that much altitude. But however, by looking at that video clip, you can get a sound understanding that these things are, my dear children, not that much, I mean, like, not these things are not that much kind of a toy kind of a thing. However, if you develop if you develop it to a certain extent, then you can get best results, as like in the video. So like I said, even you can get even more information regarding these things if you contact the Arthur C. Clarke Center, which is located at the Moratuwa. Okay, right then. So these are about the water rockets, my dear children. So I hope that you got a good knowledge how does the rocket is going to behave, how does a rocket is going to work by utilizing the reaction and the action forces. Okay, right, then let's head on to see how does a real rocket is going to work. So as you can see here, the first rocket which used liquid fuel was launched in 1926. So the first and foremost rocket which used the rocket fuel, liquid fuel, was launched in 1926. Okay, it was launched in 1926. The simplest rocket consists of a combustion chamber, a fuel tank, a liquid oxygen tank, and a tank containing igniter. So there are 4 different chambers that we can observe within a real liquid fuel rocket. So these are those 4 chambers, my dear children. 1, 2, 3, and here you can observe the 4th one, number 4. So if you take a rocket, a liquid fuel rocket, my dear children, you can observe 4 different chambers. Number 1, over there at the first, you can observe the liquid hydrogen chamber. So I told you that liquid hydrogen is the chamber, or the liquid hydrogen is the one which is used as the main fuel. Hydrogen is a combustible gas. Okay, hydrogen is a combustible gas. I mean, just like paper, just like camphor, just like petrol, just like diesel, right? Hydrogen is also a combustible substance. It's going to catch up with fire very quickly. Okay, so here within this first chamber, you are changing, or you are using, right, or the scientists are going to use liquid hydrogen, my dear children, not in the gaseous form but in the liquid form. Okay, liquid form. So they are utilizing liquid hydrogen for the first chamber, which is the fuel tank, liquid hydrogen. Then the second chamber, within the second chamber, liquid oxygen can be observed. So you know that it's not enough to have a combustible substance. Of course, there should be a supporter of combustion to start a fire. Okay, so here, my dear children, the supporter of combustion is oxygen. So in the second chamber, you can observe the oxygen gas, which is the supporter of combustion. But however, the oxygen is not being provided as a gas. Oxygen also being provided as a liquid over here. So liquid oxygen here, and in the first one, liquid hydrogen can be observed. Then, my dear children, in the third chamber, there is petrol, right? A fuel, a good fuel, which is petrol. Then the fourth and the final one is the combustion chamber. So within the combustion chamber, right, within the combustion chamber, the combustion is going to occur. Right, within the fourth chamber, in the combustion chamber, the combustion is going to occur. So petrol and hydrogen are the 2 types of fuel, right? Then, my dear children, oxygen is the supporter of combustion, and within the combustion chamber, these mix each other and the combustion would start. So that's how, right, from that thrust the rocket is moving up. Okay, so this is the simple mechanism inside a rocket that we used in our explorations, right? So here it is given liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. These are the fuel, and the petrol is the one which is going to use as the igniter. That's the igniter. Are well mixed and pumped into the combustion chamber. Gases produced by the combustion were pushed down speedily through the nozzle, giving the rocket an upward force. This makes the rocket rise up into the sky. So like in the earlier case, my dear children, I think you can remember, here we insert oxygen and hydrogen and petrol into a certain chamber over here. Within this chamber, my dear children, they are going to burn, and upon burning, the gases or the products which are getting emitted is going to escape at a high speed from this nozzle. So it's going to give out an extreme force, right, downward, an extreme force downward, creating a similar extreme force upward, which result in movement of the rocket. Okay, so this is how the motion of the rocket that's going to occur upward. Upon blowing these gases at a greater or at a higher, very higher speed, an action force is getting created towards the ground. For that force, another reaction force is getting created towards up on the rocket. So that reaction force is the one which is helpful to move rocket up. Okay, so this is how a rocket is going to fly up, my dear children, right? And there are some other mechanisms to control the motions, right? There are some other engines to control the motions of the rocket also, to control the pathway, to control the direction, right? And to control if you want to turn the rocket here and there, like that is, now it should travel in a certain direction to travel on to a certain destination, no? So in that case, my dear children, we have to maintain a certain path, a certain loci, right? So we can change this thing by using different engines which is located within the rocket, and also by using different computer commands also we can change these things, right? So this is how the motion of a rocket is going to mainly happen. So there are 4 chambers. Once again, what are those 4 chambers? Liquid hydrogen chamber, liquid oxygen chamber, right, and the petrol chamber and the combustion chamber. So these are the 4 chambers that we can observe within the rocket, right? Okay then. Right then, my dear children, now we are going to learn about, now we studied a major thing that was important in, like when we are exploring the universe, the first main important thing is the movement or the motion of a rocket. So we studied about the movement or the motion of a rocket, because rockets are the main equipments that are being utilized to explore the universe or our outer space. Now we are going to study about artificial satellites. Satellites are also pretty much important in gathering several information. So first, now we are going to study about these satellites, my dear children, right? So here it is given, the moon is attracted by the earth, but moon does not fall onto the earth because it revolves speedily around the earth. So we discussed this thing under the revolution process of the moon and the planets around the sun and other different planets. Okay, and we discussed that gravitational force is the main reason for the rotation, for the revolution of planets around the sun, and for the revolution of moons around different planets. Okay, the gravitational force is the main reason. So because of that gravitational force, these objects are not going to fall onto the particular other object, but however it's going to revolve around it at a certain constant speed. Okay, so that speed is maintained by the gravitational force given out by the larger object. Okay, right then. Celestial bodies means the objects that we can observe within the universe, my dear children. So celestial bodies smaller than the moon which are orbiting the earth are called satellites. So celestial bodies means objects, space objects or celestial bodies smaller than the moon. It should be smaller than the moons, right? Celestial objects which are smaller than the moon, which are orbiting the earth, are called as satellites. Now because of the gravitational force, not even the moon, my dear children, but however some smaller celestial objects are also going to revolve around the earth or any other planet, but here we are discussing about the planet earth. No, so other celestial objects which are revolving around our earth, which are smaller in size when you compared with the moon, right? These objects are referred as satellites. Satellites. So here, celestial bodies smaller than the moon which are orbiting the earth are called satellites. An object launched to revolve around the earth using a rocket is known as an artificial satellite. Now an object, a machine special kind of a computer, a larger machine that's been utilized or that's been sent to the outer space in order to revolve around our earth, right? So definitely when sending this, you have to send this by using a rocket. Otherwise there is no possible way to conquer the outer space. No. So by using a rocket, we are launching a special kind of a machine to the outer space. Speciality here is that this machine is going to revolve around our earth, same as the moon, right? Because of the gravitational force of the earth, this machine is going to revolve around the earth. However, my dear children, you have to take this object to very far. I mean, like if you take the space, you have to take it to a very far, right, in order to orbit around the earth. So definitely we have to use a rocket in that case. So these special machines, these special objects that are being projected, right, to the space in order to revolve around our earth are referred as artificial satellites. These are referred as artificial satellites. So here it is given the first artificial satellite named Sputnik 1, which was launched by Soviet Union on October 4th, 1957. With this historical victory, man entered into the space age. So the first and foremost satellite that was used sent to the outer space by the man is called as the Sputnik 1. This was a Russian satellite, right? The Soviet Union was the first country or the state in order to conquer, who first won the conquering of space. However, my dear children, if you if you check the competition between Soviet Union and the Americans, right? In the earlier case, like in the mid-age of the 19th century, right? Mid-age of the 19th century, like in 1950s and 1960s, that kind of time period, my dear children, there was a Cold War actually going around with the Americans and the Soviet Union regarding the space thing, right? Like there was a cold competition going around with the certain two states. One state is not going to be second with the another one. So when this thing is going to happen, Americans were also going to develop a certain thing, and they are also going to conquer another thing. So like that way, there was a big competition between Soviet Union and the United States of America regarding the space explorations. However, the first and foremost satellite was sent to the outer space by the Soviet Union. They were the ones who started the space age, right? From this historical movement, the human beings entered to the space age. So this was the first time which the barrier to the space was broken. Like that 500-kilometer barrier was broken for the first time, right? And we entered into the modern era of satellites. So this was the first case in 1957 from the Sputnik 1, right? So within the figure, you can observe the artificial satellite, the Sputnik 1, within the figure over here. So this object is going to revolve around our Earth, gathering several information about the weather, and sometimes for the communication facilities, telecommunication also, and also for the GPS systems, I told you, right? So they help in several incidents like those things, satellites. So now if you check now there are like thousands of satellites around our Earth sent by different countries. Even the India has sent several kinds of satellites to the outer space for their communication and study purposes, my dear children, right? So the first American artificial satellite was Explorer 1. So I told you that there was a war going, like a war kind of a thing, a competition going around with the Americans and the Soviet Union in conquering this outer space thing. So however, the first one was sent by the Soviet Union, which was named as the Sputnik 1. Then the Americans were able to send an artificial satellite. Okay, so the American artificial satellite, the first one was called as the Explorer 1, and it was launched on January 31st, 1958. NASA was established in 1958 to carry out the American space program. So NASA, you know about the NASA, right? So NASA then was established to carry out several explorations, several inventions regarding the space explorations. NASA was invented at that time period. So NASA stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. This is the meaning of NASA then. Right. So my dear children, you are given with an assignment. You have to make a booklet on uses obtained by artificial satellites. You have to make a booklet, right? You have to make a booklet on the things or the users, advantages of using artificial satellites. Okay. So I'll give you several key things. Key things means here main topics right? Several main users. Under that users, you find out several other information, right? You can go through with the internet, you can refer several magazines, newspapers, or else you can ask it from your elders, right? So however, I'll give you several certain points. These are key points. When you go through with these key points, you can find out even more information regarding these things, regarding the artificial satellites. So mainly we send these artificial satellites to get information about our planet Earth. Mainly, like what kind of information? We can get the information about the climate and the weather, right? Information regarding climate and weather mainly getting obtained by the artificial satellites, my dear children. That's how the meteorological department, or their when you take meteorological department, that's how they predict. That's how they're going to tell whether the next week or whether this week is favorable to go fishing, right? Fishing means to the sea. There are several fishermen who are going to sea to catch fish, right? In that case, these people should be advised whether the sea is okay to go or not, whether it is dangerous to go to sea or not. Like that way, they have to give certain types of information. So these information will be mainly collected by the information given out by the analyzation of clouds and other factors around our Earth. So those analyzation part is mainly carried out by these satellites. So we can analyze, but from our ground level, we can analyze up to a certain level, no. However, my dear children, if you move up, right, if you go above our Earth, then by that way, the satellite has the ability to, cover up a certain greater extent and get even more information than us, because we are at the ground level. The satellite is at the outer space, so it can collect even more good information rather than the us. So these information are being utilized and processed, and to get good weather conditions and good weather predictions, right? Mainly to get good weather predictions. So artificial satellites are very important in giving out weather and climate reports. Okay, so I can write. So I'll mention here number 1. To get information about, right, to get information about weather and climate. Then, my dear children, mainly we use these artificial satellites for telecommunication, right? For telecommunication, for the usage of mobiles and telephones, and also for the internet connections, these artificial satellites are pretty much important. Okay, so for telecommunication also we use these artificial satellites for telecommunication, right? Even for the GPS, I can give you some examples. Find out more details about these things about GPS, right? Global positioning systems, then data connections like Wi-Fi, like 4G, 3G, and so on. Then, my dear children, if you take telephones, right? In telephones also, not wired ones, right, but mobile phones, right? So in telecommunication, like in GPS, data connections and telephones, these artificial satellites are being mainly used. Okay, so these are several instances, my dear children. You find out even more information regarding the artificial satellites. These are like two main areas, two main key points, key areas that we use these artificial satellites in order to do our day-to-day works, right? So my dear children, you find out more details regarding these things. So by that way, it's easy to carry out this or to make this booklet, right, my dear children? So these are the users of the artificial satellites. Okay, right then. So with that thing, my dear children, I'm going to wind up this session or wind up this chapter, right? So within our next chapter, we'll be mainly focusing about the next type of satellites, about the communication satellites, right? And we'll be observing about what are the other special kinds of objects like meteorites that can be observed in our universe. Okay, so I'll hope to meet you with our next chapter, my dear children. So it's time to say goodbye. I'll hope to meet you with our next chapter to discuss about the communication satellites.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.